Okay, Halverson here, and I'm going to show you how to hook up a cell phone to your STEM telescope. Um, Actually, you're looking at the STEM telescope right there, and you're looking at a cell phone that is currently attached to it. So as you can see, I've got the eyepiece of the telescope held onto the phone just using some rubber bands. So that's pretty low tech. Um, I'm going to take it off here so I can show you a few things. The rubber bands, they hook onto this piece of aluminum that I didn't take off. I'm glad I didn't take it off. But if you went to the trouble of removing that aluminum tab, you could still make this work. I would go with some. You can go to Home Depot and get nylon cable ties, and they have like little knobs that stick out. And I'm sure you could improvise something to have something sticking out here. It would be nice to have something sticking out there so that the other rubber bands could also hook onto that. But anyway, it worked all right the way it is now. Okay. Another thing that you kind of want to pay attention to is you see this eyepiece has a rubber skirt for it's to prevent your forehead from banging into the eyepiece, but this rubber skirt folds back, and it's better to have it folded back because then the phone will be more square with the eyepiece. All right. Then a few things you need to know about phones. So this is an old Samsung phone. I don't want to use my nice new phone because I'm afraid I'm going to drop this. I've already dropped it a couple of times messing around with the telescope. So you don't want to, you want, if you are using your nice new phone, put some protection around it to just in case you drop it. All right. So let's see. I'm going to turn on my phone here, and I want to show you a few things that you probably want to do on your phone to make it easier to take good pictures. So the first thing is in the settings. Let's see if I can go. Okay, here we go. Settings. And what you want to do is, if possible, make the screen never time out. I can't do that on this phone, but at least I set it to the longest timeout of 10 minutes. So that means I've got 10 minutes to focus the telescope, aim the telescope at the moon or whatever before it turns itself off. So that's not too bad. There may be some other options that you want to mess with. I set the screen mode to basic. I'm not exactly sure what that does. And I set the screensaver to off. But the crucial thing was setting the screen timeout to as long as possible. All right. Then going over to the camera settings. You want to have as many pixels as possible. So there are some options here. I selected 5 megapixels. And let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see, are there any important things here? Okay, I want autofocus to be on. Yes. So autofocus means the camera is going to be like your eyes, automatically focusing on stuff. You want to have grid lines on. So that puts like little lines through the picture frame, and that's important for centering the moon or whatever it is in the middle of the picture. That's very important. And yeah, okay. Oh, you want to have the volume buttons. Well, you may or may not want this, but you can control whether or not the volume key, which is here on this phone, takes a picture. And you want to have the shutter sound on because you want to know when you've taken a picture. Okay, and what else? I think that's it for that one. All right, now we're coming to the most important things. Yes, we have the grid line, so we want to take pictures right in the middle here. That's going to be very important to the exposure. You see, the exposure is the thing that really messes up our pictures. It gave me a hard time getting good pictures. So to get the right exposure, you got to get things centered in the middle of the middle square. On this phone, it's determining how much light to put in or not put in by how much light is hitting right in the middle there. So if your moon is like over here to the right or too high or to the left, you're not going to get the right exposure. Okay, next thing, mode. Let's go into mode. Okay, so I want to use the pro mode, not the auto mode. And in this mode, there are a couple of really crucial things. Let's see if I can get a good focus. One that should work for me, but it doesn't, is an adjustment of how much extra or less light to expose. I'm finding out that basically I'm always getting overexposed pictures. And supposedly, if I were to set this to -1 instead of 0, then half as much light would get in and I would have less exposure. And here I should get half of half. -2 means half of half, half twice. And it should work, but I don't know, for some reason it's not working on this phone. It might work fine on your phone. So this should have worked, but it didn't on my phone. However, I was able to get the good pictures nevertheless because there's another feature here called ISO. Now, your phone is probably set to ISO auto, but you have a range of ISO settings. Now, the word ISO actually means International Standards Organization, and so there's so way back, 50 years ago, the International Standards Organization measured the sensitivity of old film, like the rolls of film that went into the cameras. And the stores, the camera stores, would sell you film to put in your camera. The most sensitive film was ISO 400. And then actually there were more sensitive films, but people didn't use them because they were kind of tricky to use. Then after that, there was ISO 200, which was half as sensitive. And then the least sensitive, generally speaking, was ISO 100. There were less sensitive films, but again, they were kind of tricky to use. So I found on this phone, I have to select the least sensitive quote unquote film simulation or whatever you want to call it, emulation in the camera. I want to show you what happens when you put the eyepiece, this is the eyepiece, up against the phone. Okay, so here's the phone. I've got my camera aimed at this light, and the reason is I want to have the eyepiece getting light like this from my lamp. It's all out of focus, but here's the thing. I'm going to put the eyepiece right over the camera and watch what happens when I do that. See, okay, so if it's out of line, you don't see much, but when it is lined up, you can see that there is a blob of light. And what we want to accomplish is we want the blob of light to be right there in the middle of the screen. All right. Okay, so you've seen how to line up the eyepiece with the lens of the cell phone. Now I'm going to show you how to actually get the eyepiece stuck onto the cell phone. So it's kludgy, it's a little tricky. You might have to mess with it a few times, but here it goes. What I'm doing is I am going to bring this group of rubber bands and put them over that little, I'm putting them over the little aluminum tab there. Okay. and I'm holding onto it. In the meantime, I'm pulling on the other group of rubber bands and bringing it over to the other side so that they're kind of crossing over. And yeah, I mean, this isn't the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so now, oh, look at that. I'm almost lined up. So I'm going to move my eyepiece so that that blob of light is right in the center, like that. There you go. It's ready to take pictures. All right, now let's just see if it'll actually take a picture here. Let's do this. Yes, look at that. It took a picture. So I want to stick this into the telescope. So I can hold the phone and eyepiece contraption by the eyepiece, right? Those rubber bands are pretty strong, and they're going to go in. And it helps for you to kind of remember how far in did you go to get the moon in focus? Because your eye and the cell phone are kind of working the same way. You see, your eye is most comfortable if you're focused for an object that's far away, you know, like 50 feet away or so. That's what your eye is comfortable with, and that's also what a cell phone is comfortable with. It's comfortable looking at objects that are like 50 feet away or so. So if that means that you want to have the telescope focus there, well, okay, that's where it should be then, and the phone will be happy to focus on that. Okay. Now I noticed that my eyepiece seems to have moved slightly, so I'll adjust that again, but it's no big deal. I just move the I said the eyepiece. It's my phone that moved a little bit. I can fix that by just sliding the. All right, so here we are. Um, the moon. I don't think you. Well, maybe you can see the moon. I'm not sure. Yeah, there it is. There's the moon. Unfortunately, there are clouds, so I'm not getting a real sharp focus. But the point is just to show you how to hook up the phone to the telescope. So there you can see the telescope, and you can see that the phone is on the telescope. Okay, so let's get the camera function going again. And all right, you could see that there's the moon, and it's just a matter of getting the scope aimed at the moon. And guess what? I'm actually a little lucky this time. I've got it just about aimed at the moon. Looks like my cell phone has slid a little bit down. Let's go down a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so when the camera slides like this, and it's not really in the right spot, what I have to do is aim the telescope at some kind of these over here. I'm aiming it at these curtains over here that are outside. So I'm just aiming the telescope at some diffuse white light, and you can see that that light is ending up in the wrong part of the camera. I want it to end up in the middle square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the camera up a bit so that it ends up in the middle square. Going the wrong way. There. Okay, so you see, now the camera's at the right spot. All right, well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm finishing up here with a picture that I took just now as I was demonstrating how to do all of this work out on my back patio. So I hope you have fun with your telescopes. Good night.